From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Introducing Instagram teen accounts, a new way to keep your teen safer as they grow, like making sure they always have their seatbelt on.
All right, buckle up. Good job.
New Instagram teen accounts, automatic protections for who can contact your teen and the content they can see.
Welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. Improv comedy isn't just about getting laughs. It's about being present, embracing uncertainty, and building trust with the people around you. At its core, improv is a tool for connection. It can help loosen up, get us out of our heads, and even begin to heal. In fact, before we launched this very show, the On Track team did a few improv exercises ourselves. So how can saying yes and help us find confidence, creativity, and maybe even a little clarity? Today, we're exploring the power of improv with two guests who have seen firsthand how improv can bring people out of their shells and into a more joyful, authentic way of being. Chris Anger started his improv journey back in high school and went on to study at Laney College in Oakland, California. He's been working in improvisation professionally for over 30 years and is now the artistic director and a co-founder of the Louisville Improvisers. Chris, welcome to On Track.
Thanks, Aisha.
We're also joined by Brian Hinds, a theater teacher at the Youth Performing Arts School in Louisville. Before moving to town, he spent 10 years with the Children's Theater of Maine as an actor, instructor, and director. And since then, he's performed with Kentucky Shakespeare, Stage One Family Theater, and many more. Brian, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
So the Louisville Improvisers recently marked 25 years together. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's 100 in real years. Yeah.
So you co-founded the group alongside Alec Voles, who's since retired. Mm-hmm. For those who might not be familiar, can you tell us a bit about the Louisville Improvisers and the kind of work you do?
Let me start by clarifying Chris and Alec were the founders, and I was a later addition.
But he's the longest serving member other than,
you.
Than me. Okay, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, no, absolutely. Brian's been with us 12 years?
14 years almost
13,
now.
14.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So he's still the new guy.
So I wasn't there for the early days, but Chris can speak to that. How?
Yeah. Well, we're, and I think we were saying when we came in, jokingly, but we're entertainment, but we're also, education is a big part of what we do. So we're trying to share the message of and the tools that improv can give just regular people and not people that just want to perform and be funny and have a group, which is a huge part of what we do. But teaching, and you covered some of it in the beginning about, teaching people how to be present and listen and be comfortable and get out of themselves, which is a huge part, not just for improv, but in life. And I also want to say, not to get too far into it, I also think that improvisation is inherently, I believe, for me certainly, a spiritual exercise. Anything, because it's about being present, mm-hmm. and it's also about getting out of ourselves and listening. But I don't want to scare anybody. Our bottom line is that we're a comedy group, but teaching teaches other tools.
Yeah, those are the results, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then I'm kind of curious about this, and Brian, I'll start with you. What initially drew you to trying your hand at improv?
Well, my background was in theater. I've been acting since I was in, 7th grade or so. And you do a lot of improv activities as sort of a means to an end. Like we'll do improv before we get into the script and before we start solidifying things. And I was aware of improv as a practice, certainly, and I've always loved. Chris and I have I think a lot of shared comic sensibilities. We like the same folks. I love sketch and all of that kind of thing. But in terms of improv as an art form on its own, I didn't really get into until I connected with these guys 13 or 14 years ago. And it has helped me, not just as an actor, and it does tremendously help me as an actor. Helps me as a teacher. It helps me as a citizen of these United States right now in terms of just be in the moment. Mm-hmm. Don't think too far ahead because you'll freak yourself out, get all up in your head. Just be there. Find a connection, find a relationship, and it's very freeing.
What about you, Chris? What inspired you to try your hand at improv initially?
Well, just a little background. My grandparents, my father's parents, were in vaudeville, and so they did comedy. And then my father's side of the family, that's where they were all in show business. So that being said, my father told me, even as as far as I can remember, as far as I could start talking, that I was funny. And then he told me about my grandparents, and he said, this is what you should do. So he pointed me in that direction. So, but I was a wise guy, but I do remember during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to think, and I thought about my first improv class. First time I ever, first exercise, first game. And I said, to me, it felt like I found it. I mean, immediately, I said, wow, this is it. And I somehow, through Facebook, I found my old improv teacher, my theater teacher from high school.
Wow.
And I messaged her, and we messaged back and forth, and her name was Miss Kirby at the time. And I said, my memory is that the first class, first exercise, first game, I just lit up. And I said, did you get that? And she said, oh, absolutely. So she remembered it, and she noticed it, and she still remembers me and my best friend, who has since passed away, from our improv class, late 70s. And she said I was one of the top 3 or 4 improvisers she ever had. And
you hesitated. You didn't want to say that.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, coming from her.
He added the top 4 part. He's making it up now. She said top 3.
Well, and me being me, I wanted to, and I restrained myself.
Yeah.
Not number 1. I just like, hold back. Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it. Accept a compliment. And I said, thank you. But anyway, yeah, it's been ever since. I mean, I don't want to say it gives meaning to my life, but in a lot of ways it does. If I'm not improvising, I don't quite feel as grounded.
It feels authentic to you. It also sounds like it's a little bit destined and family born as well.
I think so, absolutely. I think that's absolutely true.
So when looking at improv, kind of going into a one-on-one question, what are some of the basic improv principles, and how you both have touched on this, but how do they apply to everyday life?
I'll tell you the big thing, which comes up a lot in any kind of conversation, any kind of relationship: listening. Mm-hmm. Now, I think we've all met people. It's like, they haven't heard a word I'm saying. It's a monologue, and they're not taking in any information. Now, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I also have a family story here, real quick. My wife is not from Kentucky. Her mom was, and her parents moved back here when they retired. And Denise and I have been here since 1998. For the longest time, and I'm not blaming anybody, and I'm not naming names. I think maybe to a person, everybody in my family thought Denise was from Kentucky. Listening. It just never took it in, and it's not that big a deal, but it's just an example, the first example that popped into my head. Because you're going to learn everything you need to know if you actually listen to the person or look at them, and be in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's the key to good improvisation.
That's what serves me most, being in the moment. It's something I still work on in our scene work, is the need to know what the end of the story is before we get there. And I'm better at it, but there's a tendency in improv to drive the narrative.
Right.
I want to force us to get to this place rather than letting the thing happen organically. And that is what can happen in life too, and where anxieties come from is my concern about these future events not working out the way that I am predetermining they should, when I have no control over it.
Right.
If I'm here in my relationship, if I'm here taking the time, reacting honestly, truthfully to what's going on around me, we'll find the ending together.
So I think that's interesting what you talk about when you're mentioning anxiety, because I did have a friend who took a class called Improv for Anxiety, and that was while they were working on their dissertation, and they found that it really helped them. So from your experience, what are some of those therapeutic or healing aspects of improv?
Well, and this is a hard one, but I think it's the key to relaxation and just relaxing in general. I mean, it's trust yourself and we always say trust yourself, trust the partners, your partner. And I also like to say that, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us. So that should relieve, hopefully, some of the pressure. Because I think a lot of times, one of the great things about improv, too, is you realize that there are no accidents, there are no mistakes. These are just gifts. And in San Francisco, when I first started out, they had a saying, fail gracefully. Just sort of let it go. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I think a lot of times people sometimes, and I've been guilty of this years ago, of, every little quote-unquote mistake, it's the end of the world. And it's really not. And just sort of let go.
Yeah. That moment is gone. You can't
right.
You can't go back to it. And
right.
if you spend time in your head dwelling on that moment, you've missed the next 10 opportunities that have come your way.
Right. It's about letting go of control. Because what Brian just said, I mean, as much as we like to think we do, we've got no control. So just let go. And I know for me that as soon as I let go of control of the situation, I immediately feel better. And I also, in improv too, it's all about, I have no idea what the end of the story is going to be until, hopefully, if we're doing our job, we're in the moment together, we're listening to each other, and we're committed to the scene, and we're supporting each other, trust, commitment, and support, we'll figure it out.
It's so interesting because I feel like a lot of people, they really try to be present and mindful, and it's something they're really trying hard to be. And it sounds like improv is just such a great tool for that. And Chris, you talked about listening. It's all about listening really to each other. And so I'm thinking about improv being about listening, and we're in this world that feels pretty divided. It feels more important than ever. What role do you think that kind of deep intentional listening plays in helping people connect across differences?
Well, I mean, listening, of course, but actually, because I think a lot of times, people already have their mind made up. And then you're also, the thing too, that I really like to teach people and try to remember is that there is no judgment in improvisation. Because sometimes I use this example sometimes, about, eating garbage. And sometimes beginning people will say, it's improv garbage, okay? It's okay. But the scene goes better if you accept it and enjoy it, yes and.
Yeah.
Positive choices are always better than negative choices. And that's the thing, too. Negativity doesn't work in improvisation. You're going to cut the scene short.
Then you have nowhere to go. You're done.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you walk in and say, howdy, Sheriff. You go, I'm not a sheriff. I'm okay, well, why don't we all just leave?
Yep.
Yeah, doesn't work, right?
It really doesn't.
So yes, and that's a phrase we hear a lot in improv. Where does that phrase come from, if you know, and why is it so powerful?
Well, I can't say who originated it,
Right.
but
From the beginning.
Yeah. The concept is that I will accept what you are offering and I will add to it. I may add to it in a way that takes us in a different direction. Right. Yes, and doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree and go along with everything you say or do. But it does require us to say, I'm hearing it. We're back to the listening. Right. I'm hearing what you're saying, and here is how I'm going to contribute to it.
Right.
And we'll build and build and build.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people think yes, and I would say you don't have to like it, but you got to do it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, no, I don't like that idea, because maybe they already have a preconceived idea about where they think it's going. Yes, and. Yes, I heard you. I accept it. And it's also about adding information. And is adding information. Yes, thank you for the birthday gift. and I'm sorry, I'm allergic. You know, but so you haven't denied, you know, the offer, and you've added another element.
You've introduced something new to talk about. Oh, I had no idea. You eat this cake every year. This is the first time you're telling me you're allergic to it. I feel terrible.
Right. I'm just tired of being sick.
Yeah, that explains the rash.
And that's why I haven't called you.
See? There you go.
Beautiful.
Right?
It seems like like additions feels like a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It literally is. Yeah. We're adding on to each other, not cutting each other down. Because if we don't do that, oh gosh, you have nowhere to go, and I can't imagine anything. And then we've experienced it. Anything worse than being in a scene where you're just spinning your wheels, the wheels of negativity.
Right.
It's terrible for the audience. It's boring, and it's terrible for us to be up there experiencing it.
Luckily, we outgrew that habit. 25 years ago, but
it's an early improviser instinct is to go to a place of conflict,
right?
Because you think conflict is what drama is, and that's interesting. It's interesting for about 4 seconds.
It is,
and then we plateaued.
It is because, and that's what a little bit. We always say too, a little bit of that goes a long way.
Yeah,
and it becomes very static. You hear people yes, no, yes, no. It's like okay, just because you just gotta let go and let go of control, but also let go of your idea, whatever your idea is.
Well, we're going to try a little bit of that. We'll be back with more after the break. You're on track with Louisville Public Media. Well, welcome back to On Track. We are talking about the importance of improv with Chris Anger and Brian Hinds of the Louisville Improvisers. And as we've discussed, improv is more than just entertainment. It can be a powerful tool for personal growth. Are there a few simple activities or exercises people could try at home, either with friends or on their own, family, to help build confidence, foster connection, or just feel more at ease in themselves? And if you have some ideas, maybe we can try some examples.
Oh, okay. Sure. We can just, wow, I didn't realize we were going to, wouldn't that be funny?
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, wouldn't it be like, wow, I sure wasn't ready for that. Boy, what a nightmare. What is this? I didn't realize this was going to be a gotcha.
The number one thing we don't want to do, gotcha.
Wow, okay. Especially since we talked about it right before you asked. But anyway, well, I mean, here's a basic exercise that I really like, and it's one of the oldest ones, and you can even play if you want.
Sure, I'll try.
Okay, and we're just going to do a one-word story.
Okay.
And this sure teaches us how to, and we're going to go clockwise for those of you sitting at home.
Look at your clocks and follow our voices.
Listen to us and watch the clock.
This is a digital.
Oh boy, we just lost half the people.
Oh no.
What a nightmare. Okay, just listen to us and pet the dog. Anyway, it tells us how to tell a story one word at a time. Like this is all about listening. It's about being in the moment. And it's how to, ideally tells us how to tell a story and tells us how not to tell a story. So we're just starting the very beginning. And then, and we'll just do it one word at a time, and it's like we're all one head telling the same story, so it shouldn't be, it should be, I found a blah, 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 so it's not real slow. Anyway, suddenly.
Oh, this is clockwise. Okay. Suddenly I
heard
you
jump
over
my
cow.
Why?
Cow.
Because
it's
here.
Right
now.
And then in the end, every story with the words the
end.
And that's it. A simple story is always a better story. And, something we don't need to figure out, and I'm doing air quotes here, the logic. Because every story should, and every improv story, every scene should have its own internal logic. So don't judge it. Don't try to figure it out. And I believe if we're doing our job, by the end we will have figured it out. So I love that exercise because
that's a really good one to go back to what I was saying about being really concerned about the ending. I play that one with my students and particularly younger kids will let you know in the moment, that's not what I wanted you to say. Why did you say that? You said the wrong thing. I'm going to whisper to you what you should say. And then the whole thing sort of falls apart.
Right.
I thought we did really well there.
Yeah.
I think we did. I think, like I said, it's just it's all about yes and. And sometimes we can tell why a story doesn't work because all of a sudden it's too many elements, too many details.
Less is more.
Less is more. Simple is always better. And you got somebody jumping over a cow.
Yep.
And I visualized a living room. I don't know if we said that, but what else do you need?
Yeah. Different interpretations, too. I'm from Wisconsin, so I was like, this is
see?
normal life.
Business as usual. Why isn't there a cow here?
I mean, well, that was so great. Thank you for doing that exercise.
Yeah.
It seems very accessible, right? So,
Yes.
So as you've shown, you don't need a classroom necessarily to do improv. It's something you could do just about anywhere. So for those who are listening and are curious, where's a good place to start if they want to incorporate improvising more into their life?
A good place to start? Well, classes are always good. We teach classes. They can check our Facebook page, Louisville Improvisers, on Facebook, and we teach. We try to teach them once every month or two, and bring people in. Just teach them the basics.
All levels.
All
interest
levels. Yeah. We operate. Everybody's on the same level because I think the fear of improv is more than the actual thing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of, and people realize too. Not only will you learn something, but you're also going to have fun with a group of people, and just realize how silly is good, and it's okay. It's okay to be silly, and maybe learn something and be funny.
Yeah.
I was just going to say one more thing. It's because we always say that we don't teach comedy, but improv, if done properly, will be funny. So
truth is always funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were saying when we practice it for the team, there was a worry of fear, but then everybody got involved, and there was something about everybody getting involved that was special because they were committed to just trying and being willing to sort of do something different and being open to things. I think there's some openness to that people don't know once you get past that first step of fear.
And something I love to see people discover, and it took me a while. I'm thinking first in terms of theater, doing a run of a scripted play. At the end, sometimes you're sad because it's over. We had this great time, and now it's over. And I used to get sad, and I have since, and improv has helped with this. Instead, lean into the magic of the thing disappearing into the air. That's a beautiful thing about it. So there's nothing to fear, really, because it's here. We attempted a thing. Maybe we weren't as successful as we wanted to be, or maybe we killed it. Either way, we did it, and now it's gone. Now it belongs to the particles.
Yeah, and it's this thing that we did together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that
performers and the audience.
And the audience, just it's a and one of the things I love about improv too is that, especially during anywhere you do it, even right here, but in a class or and certainly in a performance, it's one of the greatest shared experience, between you and the audience, because sometimes, and I don't quite understand this, but some people get nervous watching improv, and I remember.
Like they're watching a trapeze artist.
Right. Yeah. We're not the Wallendas. Okay, Google it. Anyway. Well, no, this is public radio. Everybody knows who the Wallendas are. But, gosh, I worked in my Wallendas reference.
Knocked yourself right
and
off.
I knocked myself right up. Oh, people have said, well, gosh, what happens when you don't know what to say? I said, well, that doesn't happen. Certainly because in the beginning, sure, because you're caught up in projecting and you're not in the moment, you're not listening. But between Brian and I, we can always find something to say. But
I wanted to before I forget it, going back to how can this help social discourse?
Yeah.
The talking is overrated. That's something I see. And so, you scroll for 4 seconds on, so it's everybody's opinion,
Right.
shouting at each other, a
Right.
lot of voices that aren't required in this moment. And it's the same in scene work.
Right.
I don't need to talk right now. I think that when you're on stage, you feel the need. Young performers will
Right.
feel the
Fill
need
the space.
To, yes, I got to talk. A lot of life isn't that way. It's waiting to figure out what is the right time to speak. Let me formulate my thoughts and my words, and it's
Right.
okay to take your time.
It
Exploring a silence can be a beautiful thing.
It really can, and especially in improvisation, certainly in acting, but in improvisation, because I think, whatever people, from Who's Line or something like that, they had this one idea about what improv is, and certainly performing improv. And that's certainly one aspect of it. But the way we do it, we do scene work. Brian and I do scene work, and we do a lot of listening. And the thing is, too, and that's the whole thing, is the most overrated thing in improv is talking. You just think about, and we do this, if you come see us, how much you can do with a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a look. Like life, and you say something, and then also the whole, acting thing is show me, don't tell me.
Right.
I'm angry. Well, why don't you show it? So you can show that easier. And it's easier to, and here's the trick. Okay, everybody lean into the radio.
Yeah,
now.
this is behind the curtain.
Yeah, this is behind the curtain. It's easier to improvise slower
Yes.
than faster. Okay?
If I'm not sure where I'm going, I'll take a moment and
Right.
pour Chris a cup of coffee in the scene. It never fails. And by the time I have handed over that cup of coffee, one of us has some idea of what the scene needs next.
Right, because it gives you time to think
Yes.
and feel and react. And so, and because sometimes, and you just sort of look at somebody, and if you walk into the scene, I don't come in knowing who the person is or what they're doing, but I have to figure out for me really quickly, who is this person and how do I feel about them?
Well, before I let you go,
Yeah.
in setting the scene, what does the Louisville Improvisers have coming up on stage, or if people want to learn more, what do you got for us?
Yeah, well, we have our third Friday. We got one coming up in May 16th. At the Garner Large Art Gallery, that's on Bardstown Road, 1013 Bardstown Road, alley entrance. And then we also got our big summer plans. This is our 10th anniversary of our improvised Shakespeare show, Late Night Shakes. So we're pretty fired up about that.
Chris, Brian, thank you so much for being here on
Thank
track.
you.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
Chris, Anger, and Brian Hinds are the Louisville Improvisers and just celebrated their 25th anniversary as an organization. Together, they created Late Night Shakes, an improvised Shakespeare show for the Kentucky Shakespeare Festival for 10 years as of this year. On Track is a production of Louisville Public Media. The On Track production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson, Alex Biscardi, and Laura Ellis. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and remember, say yes, be bold, trust the mess, and let it unfold. Until next time, you're on track with Louisville Public Media.